The night was quiet, the kind of silence that wrapped around you like a heavy blanket. You were deep in sleep, your breathing soft and steady. The warmth of the bed lulled you into a rare sense of comfort until something stirred in the back of your mind. A strange feeling crawled up your spine, forcing you awake. Your eyes fluttered open, confusion clouding your thoughts. Instinctively, you reached for the lamp, clicking it on, and as the light bathed the room, you froze. A man stood at the foot of your bed, masked and holding a that glinted in the dim light. His presence filled the room, an aura of and darkness radiating from him. Your heart hammered in your chest, panic flooding your veins. You gasped, your voice catching in your throat. I'm gonna have to. You now. His voice was low, almost a whisper, as if he were discussing something trivial. Fear seized you, your breath coming out in shallow, rapid bursts. Your mind scrambled for something, anything to stop what felt inevitable. And then, as if driven by some desperate instinct, you shouted the first thing that came to your mind. No, please, I'm pregnant. Your words hung in the air like a fragile shield, trembling and uncertain. The man's grip on thee faltered. He paused, staring at you for what felt like an eternity, before his voice through the silence again. Where's the father? Tears welled up in your eyes, the truth spilling out in a breathless rush. I don't know. It was a one-night stand. I can't even remember his face. For a moment, there was only the sound of your shallow breathing. Then, slowly, agonizingly, slowly, the man reached up and removed his mask. His face came into view, sharp jawline, piercing eyes, and tousled dark hair. He was strikingly handsome, but there was something in the way he held your gaze. You don't know? He asked, his voice now softer, almost curious. You nodded, tears streaming down your face. Yes, I don't remember. His eyes flicked down to your stomach, his brow furrowing in contemplation. For a long while, he stood there, silent, as if weighing his options. Then, to your surprise, a smile began to curl at the corners of his, a dark, almost twisted smile. You know? His voice was soft now, with something that made your I've always wanted to be a dad. His posture shifting from to something else, something far more unsettling. He moved closer, and you instinctively recoiled, yourself against the headboard. But he wasn't moving to hurt you anymore. Instead, his eyes stayed locked on your stomach, his smile growing more pronounced, more possessive. You can't be serious, you whispered, your voice shaking. You're not the father. You couldn't be. Oh, but I am, he said calmly, kneeling beside the bed now, his hand resting near your legs, but not. What are the odds, Out of all the people you could had a one-night stand with, it was me. Your mind reeled. The room spun. This can't be happening. It is, he murmured, his gaze never leaving your belly. His hand lifted, and for a horrifying moment you thought he might you. But he stopped short, just inches away. And you're carrying my child. You were going to, you stammered, the memory of the still fresh in your mind. Why would you? I didn't know then, he interrupted, his voice cold, though his eyes glimmered with an unnerving warmth as they flicked to your face. I didn't know you were carrying my child. It changes things. Changes things? You repeated, disbelief tightening your chest. He nodded slowly. I want you now. I can't. He leaned in closer, his breath warm against your. Not when you're carrying something so precious, something that's mine. The club was buzzing with life, neon lights flashing in time with the deep bass that vibrated through the air. You could barely hear yourself think, and that was exactly what you wanted. The music, the crowd, the drinks, they all blurred together, making it easier to forget, easier to escape the stress that had been weighing on you for weeks. Tonight, you were determined to let loose, to lose yourself in the moment. You downed another drink, the burn off, mixing with the dizzying thrill of the night. Around you as you danced, your movements loose, carefree. The world was a blur of laughter, music, and dim lights. That's when you saw him. He stood near the bar, his eyes already on you, taller than you, with dark hair that fell messily over his forehead. He exuded an effortless charm. There was something about the way he looked at you, intense, magnetic, like he was challenging you to approach him. And in your haze, you couldn't resist the pull. You made your way over, the crowd parting, as if the universe itself was guiding you toward him. The second you were close enough to feel the curved into a smirk. Can I buy you a drink? His voice was low, smooth, and despite the noise of the club, it felt like the world quieted just for him. You didn't even hesitate, nodding as you smiled back. Sure. By the way, my name is Jimin. And yours? Wyan. One drink turned into two, and before you knew it, you were lost in conversation, his eyes never leaving yours, his hand grazing yours every now and then, sending sparks down your spine. You couldn't remember exactly what you were talking about, but it didn't matter. There was an undeniable chemistry between you, a tension that grew with every passing second. By the time the night had worn on, you were laughing at something he said when he leaned in, his brushing against your ear. "Let's get out of here," he whispered, his breath against. Your pulse quickened, a part of you knowing where this was headed. But you didn't care. Head numbed your worries, your thoughts, leaving only the desire for something. You nodded, barely able to form words as you followed him out of the club, his hand sliding down your arm before curling possessively around your waist. The night air hit your face, cool and refreshing, but it did nothing to up as he led you to his car. The ride was a blur, the tension between you growing thicker, more charged, until you finally arrived at his place. The second the door closed behind you, everything shifted. You wanted this, needed this. You, back into the headboard, heart racing as he loomed over you, his handsome face now inches from yours. The air seemed to thicken, his proximity unbearable. His fingers brushed the edge of the bed, crawling slowly toward your knee. You flinched, but he didn't stop. "You're mine now," he said softly, his breath warm against your. "No," you whispered, shaking your head, tears burning at the corners of your eyes, but it wasn't strong enough. You felt weak, and that seemed to thrill him. He leaned in closer, his just over. "You're scared," he whispered, his eyes tightening as he tilted his head, his brushing against. Not quite but enough to make your pulse spike. "But you'll learn to love me. You'll see." Before you could protest, his claimed yours. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't sweet, it was possessive, demanding, like he wanted to mark you, to own you with that. His hand slid to the back of your neck, finger tingling in your hair as he, pulling you closer, moved over yours with a bruising intensity, stealing the breath from your lungs. You gasped, trying to push him away, but he only. Fingers gazing over your, in a way that made your tense. And despite the fear flooding your veins, you couldn't fight the that loomed in your. He broke the just over yours, breath heavy as his thumb traced the edge of your jaw. His eyes, once cold, now burned with something primal. "You feel that?" he whispered, his voice rough and filled with a twisted. "That's just the beginning." You stared up at him, heart pounding. Still, on your. His gaze shifted from your to your stomach, and the smile on his face darkened, turning from something possessive to something far more unsettling. Without a word, he lowered himself to his knees beside the bed, his fingers brushing over the blanket covering your abdomen. The gentleness of his was in stark contrast to the cruel intensity of his earlier actions, but it made you feel no safer. Slowly, his hand slid beneath the fabric, softly against your stomach. His eyes softened as he stared at the spot where his hand rested, and for a moment, edge in his expression faltered, replaced by something deeper, something you couldn't quite name. "You're carrying my child," he murmured, as if speaking to himself. His fingers traced slow, deliberate circles over, almost reverently, "our child." Then, before you could even process what was happening, he leaned in, his breath warm as, gently against stomach, was soft, tender, even, and it sent a shiver down your spine, not from fear, but from the intensity of the moment, as if he were savoring the contact, as if that sealed his claim. When he finally pulled back, his eyes met yours, and for the first time they looked almost human. Disappeared entirely, but there was a flicker of something else now, something possessive, yes, but also strangely protective. "I'll protect you both," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "No one will ever, you or our baby." His hand remained on your stomach, his thumb brushing lightly over the, and the intensity of his gaze made it clear. This was no longer just a game for him. In his mind, he was no longer a stranger who had invaded your life. He was a man who believed he was now bound to you and your unborn child in the most twisted, unbreakable way possible. "We'll be a family," he murmured, planting one more on your baby bump, sealing the promise he intended to keep.